Presence by Amy Cuddy. Welcome to my channel. My name is Samuel and I want to make self-growth normal. If you want to make self-growth normal, because I don't want to do it alone, and I've never met someone who doesn't want to make self-growth normal, then make sure to smash that like button. In this review, I'm going to talk about what you can get out of this book that can seriously help you with your life, but I'm going to take an abnormal approach first and say what you might get a lot out of by pushing to the side. What to look out for, because I think there's some major elephants in the room of this book that no one's really thinking about. Maybe I'm thinking way too much about them. As far as you, I mean, this is your hard-earned money and time that you're spending on these books. And I think it only makes a lot of sense to squeeze all of the value that you can out of them. Every little drop of juice. We have the nostalgic, over-the-moon introduction about the author's experience as a speaker at TEDx 2012 Global, and how she was so grateful to receive all the different responses she did, despite all the odds and ends she had to deal with up to that point in her life. Amy Cuddy was a social psychology professor, and she's been at Harvard now for a while doing business and negotiations and leadership and stuff like that. What presence is this psychological state where you're just
in the moment, man. You don't got a care in the world. You're just floating in space, man. You're present in the moment. The pain body ain't no thing.
No, not really. Not at least here. And this is the part where my head started turning. Because the author throughout the book, in my opinion, does not draw a hard enough line. Gerby! So cute. Between the two definitions here, Cuddy says throughout the pages that presence is the state of being attuned to and able to comfortably express our true thoughts, feelings, and values and potential. When facial expressions don't match words, when postures are out of sync with vocal tonality, the person is trying to juggle lots of different, maybe micro narratives inside, whether they know it or not. Basically is just not being present because their thoughts, words, and actions are not aligned. But to me, there's something unusual about the difference between this and what she says presence is not. Because what it isn't in the book, allegedly, is in the moment spiritual presence. Anyone who probably knows my reference point around which this is focused is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, my third favorite book ever. But this bothered me a lot. I almost feel bad because what I do like about this book, I really like about this book. But here, some of my reasoning for it is that the book talks about how what it means to be yourself is almost like not really anything. But being yourself according to in the moment presence is also like not really anything. In the moment presence requires a separation from an observation of self, to my knowledge. And the way they talk about it in this book, in some aspects, sounds just like that. The key to presence, as they say in acting school, is relaxation. Isn't relaxation something that happens when you meditate? Eckhart Tolle is a big meditator. I think I need to start meditating again, stressing myself out over book contents. Here, this is something a guy said when she asked about his thoughts on this one performance. I think it was a dance performance.
He was able to connect us to everything. He built a bridge to the heavens. It was just unbelievable. My God, that was just absolute mastery of being in the present. What about this sounds real and unspiritual? I'm just confused about this. And I feel like this is all a very weird detail to be butthurt about. So if you're watching this and you don't really get where I'm coming from, I hear you. But after all, we are talking about the author's definition of the one word that is the title of this book. I mean, in another chapter, she talks about stereotype backlash, and this is where another, my head started to turn in a different direction, or maybe the same direction, but kept moving toward that direction. Stereotype backlash. Something that causes this misalignment of, you know, who you are in the moment, or just not in the moment, because in the moment is not really a thing in this book. That's not what presence is. We're talking about punishment for failing to conform to societal expectation. What I really like about this, at least, is that the way she talks about it, it's very well-rounded. What's not good about this being bullied, ignored, rejected, abused, thrown stuff at, rejected, it sucks. But there's a whole chapter that talks all about
why and how. Something about that to me is a little bit excessive. I mean, the chapter does talk about other stuff, but the degree to which she talked about that was just way too much for me. This is all very odd to me. Honestly, I feel like the first time I listened to this book, I got so much more out of it. Because then she started talking about what empowers us and what we're more likely to do when we feel empowered than when we don't. I just think there's a lot of focus on things here like hierarchies and zero-sum social power. But there's also a lot of focus on how power is a choice. Although I just don't think that focus is emphasized nearly enough throughout the book, or at least the first half to 2/3 of it. It's like here.
This is some fixed mindset.
But here is some growth mindset.
And wait, no. Add a little bit more fixed mindset, but
Also, sorry, just in case I forgot, here's a little bit of growth mindset while you're at it.
Where the fixed mindset and growth mindset came from, the book Psychology by Carol S. Dweck is all about that. So it's not bad to talk about the two, but to zigzag from each one to the other so quickly for as much as she does in this book, at some points it can be a little bit dizzying. Where she starts talking about how body language differences between genders are not biological, they're more socially constructed, and the older you get, the more differently you start to think about them and consider how valid they are. And regardless of how true this is, it just sounds biased. And for anyone who's snap judging me right now, because I don't remember the last time I was this hype in a review, and I know how some people are when they see videos like this. For anyone who's snap judging me, not judging me, but snap judging me, I'm with you. Because when I was listening, I was like,
Am I just thinking this because I'm a guy and want to confirm an unconscious belief that if women feel more powerful, then I feel less powerful?
but then I thought about my review of 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson, where that book, just a lot of stuff in there sounded very biased. And coming from the total other end of the whole spectrum, my answer turned into a hard no. Maybe I thought the studies sounded a little inconclusive, but that's just one example. One Audible review said that there's too much of a sexist slant, but I don't know if I would call it exactly, I'm not sure what else I would call it, but I don't think I would call it that. I mean, for all I know, maybe the book needed a sexist slant. A lot of 1 to 3 star reviews talked about, it's too long, the stories aren't interesting enough, too many studies. I don't think you can have too many studies. I mean, in my opinion, there are some phenomenal books that are flooded with studies. The stories I think could have been more interesting, but I think they also could have definitely been less interesting. A lot of the reviews also said there was not enough practical advice. I kind of agree, but only really in terms of practical advice to study and story talk ratio. Where the studies and stories are placed and how, I don't think that it was methodical enough to really drive the book home. Sometimes when I sneeze, I feel like it sounds like a bomb went off. But all I really got out of it, at least the first time, that was life-changing, like the 5-star reviews said, was 1, standing with my hands on my hips, the power pose. I don't have enough space with this chair. And 2, telling myself when I'm nervous that I'm excited, over and over and over and over again. And imagining myself when I'm excited. Because the two moods look the same physically, but the only actual difference between being excited and being nervous is literally your perspective. One 5-star review stood out because I don't want to just look at how this is so bad, everything sucks. I want to see what people who really got a lot out of this as well are saying. This person said owning her personal power has helped infinitely with presentations, conversations, and the like. What you're likely to get out of this book that's useful is more info on using your own body in personal and social contexts to not exactly be yourself, but further become yourself over time. I just have mixed feelings. 60% negative, 40% positive. And I really don't mean to use this phrase, but I think there is just a little too much
victim talk
during an unnecessary percentage of this book. Maybe there isn't too much of it, but It's too distracting, or it was when it came to my attention. And I don't mean this like,
Nothing happens to people, it's all in your head.
I don't mean to say this girl's not being discriminated against.
This person doesn't have PTSD or
anything like that. I mean to say that she talks about powerlessness and discrimination very, very binarily. Kind of like I said earlier here. This part really stood out like a sore thumb that was just hit by a sledgehammer in Alaska on the 3rd Tuesday of December. Imagine all the components of powerlessness: anxiety, stress, fear, threat, self-doubt, negative mood, defenselessness, diminishing executive function, memory problems, distracting thoughts, avoidance, and then multiply them by a lot. That gives you a rough idea of how someone with post-traumatic stress experiences life. I'm not saying that this is not true. I don't have PTS. And I think that people who do have PTS and love this book, maybe at that point they heard it and they felt, understood. And I could see why. But maybe this is just me. I heard it and I just imagine, if I were them, I would probably feel worse.
Like, get to the solution, Amy, please. You're killing me.
It's very, very problem focused. But to practice what I preach here, what did I like? I did like how much study went into this. I mean, it's super evident that she's passionate about the topic and she has spent decades studying it. I did like some of the early body language chapters where she talks about sports, like why gymnasts start their routines the way they do. I think it's really funny what she said about sports, how people react physically when something bad happens on the part of or to their favorite teams. They all react the same exact way every time. Even the team reacts like that. I heard about a study in Captivate by Vanessa Van Edwards, fantastic book, that looked at how animated the body language was in the highest viewed TED Talks. Amy Cuddy's was one of them. And after listening to this book, it makes sense why, but not really as much as other books that I'm gonna recommend at the end of this video. If you want to know what chapters in this book are the most worth paying attention to, the truest gold is in the last 4 chapters. The body never lies. At some point, you must stop preparing content and start preparing mindset. I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I can no longer accept. What is always true about power is that power reveals. I don't sing because I'm happy because I sing. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone who has crippling depression or PTSD or anxiety, or really anything that's crippling you in a way that feels like there's an elephant between you and your true, who you are. I also recommend this book for anyone who just has kind of overall confidence issues that they want to work on in social situations of any kind. The only reason I recommend it to these people is that, if this describes you, it really did describe me for a long time. The practical advice that I got from this book, applying it helped me a lot with that. So I figure maybe it could help you with it too. I just recommend being a little bit cautious about some of the stuff that you hear. There's not much of what you could get out of the book, but whatever there is of that, you can get so much from applying. Direction 2. If you like this book, definitely check out What Every Body Is Saying by Joe Navarro. Captivate, of course, by Vanessa Van Edwards, but also The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox Cabane. That book, last time I checked, contrary to this book, is No Problem, All Solution, and Then Some. Presence by Amy Cuddy. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video, if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to receive a notification every time I drop a new video, that will mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere and I will see you then.